chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Thank you, Barbara G. Hello. Hello, Barbara G. The sound was gone.
Yep.
Yep.
On YouTube and
I'm back now. I'm back now, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm back. Thank you, my sweet. Thank you. Always a pleasure. Well, here we go. My apologies for that. Good evening, Cayman. And good morning to our global family. Welcome to another edition of Sabrina Speaks, Voices of the Islands, Conversations for the World, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. It's good to be back with you on this Friday, and I'm Sabrina. Now, today's episode is about readiness, not reaction. And as we know, Melissa, a tropical storm, soon to be hurricane, is moving through the Caribbean very close to us. And while this path remains pretty much uncertain, we've seen what's been going on. Its presence is undeniable. And that means we must stay alert, informed, and definitely be prepared. Now, joining me a little later in the show, I'll be joined by two experts who will help guide our national response. I'm speaking about none other than Mr. Mark Codling from Hazard Management, Cayman Islands, and Mr. Shamal Clarke from the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. And together, our aim is to unpack what really happens behind the scenes when a storm threatens all three of our islands and what you can do right now to protect your family, property, and definitely your peace of mind. Now, please be reminded that the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for the general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. And I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. Sabrina Speaks disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. And again, it is a pleasure to be back with you. But just even though I'm going to have the experts on, let me just share with you, just in case you missed it, let me share with you the latest update as we have it here, released moments before I went live. And this is the 4:30 p.m. update on Tropical Storm Melissa by the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. Now, the National Hurricane Center continues its advisories on Tropical Storm Melissa. The storm is moving slowly, about 2 miles per hour, and the structure of the storm is becoming better defined with further strengthening that is expected through the weekend. Now, Tropical Storm Melissa is anticipated to become a hurricane by tonight and possibly become a major hurricane by Sunday before the system moves over Jamaica on Tuesday. Now, this latest forecast track has the system possibly moving over Jamaica and therefore reducing the potential weather impacts anticipated over the Cayman Islands. Now, there remains some uncertainty about the system and where it will move and its size, including its structure as well. And we could see possible changes in the storm's track later on. Now, while the overall risk to the Cayman Islands has decreased, significant uncertainty still remains as we move into next week. So residents are encouraged to continue monitoring official channels closely for any updates, potential impacts, or advisories for the Cayman Islands. Now, the next update from the Cayman Islands National Weather Service will be provided around 10:30 this evening. And definitely, and I'll be posting it here for the sake of all of us, for all of the latest updates, you can definitely, on Tropical Storm Melissa throughout the weekend, I'm going to be sharing the 2 links. If you don't have them, you can definitely log on. Let me post them on the link below so you'll see them live. There we go. You can visit www.weather.gov.ky and also www.caymanprepared.ky. Yes. It is a pleasure to be back here with you. And look, down at International Lighting, just a quick reminder for our friends. At International Lighting, hurricane season is here. And being prepared starts at home. Don't be caught unable to cook a hot meal when the power or should the power go out. International has you covered, International Lighting, with 2 and 3 burner propane stoves and much more. So visit them at Ed's Plaza. They're located at 194 North Sound Drive for your hurricane supplies and great prices. Now, their hours of operation are from Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you still got an entire hour to get down to Edward. And here's the best part. Even though it's all of this that's going on around us, you spend $50 or more and you'll be entered to win a round trip ticket to any Cayman Airways destination. That's preparedness with perks. Give them a call for more information to find out if they may have the one thing you're like going off on your hurricane preparedness checklist and you don't have. Give Edward a call. 345-949-4151. I can assure you, if he don't have it, he'll definitely get it for you. Yes, definitely. We will be right back after this message. I'll acknowledge all of you who I'm seeing piling in. Yes, I want to hear so much more from you on this Wind Down Friday. And I'm hoping we can do it despite what is in the area. I hope you'll still be able to do it at pace. We'll be right back after this message.
Infrastructure is more than roads and buildings.
It's our lifelines connecting East End to West Bay, Cayman to Little Cayman, and the Cayman Islands to the world.
It established the route to get our children to school, keep our hospitals powered, and support our businesses every day.
Through hard work, ingenuity, and perseverance, people make that happen.
From the early pioneers who paved the first paths and laid the first pipes,
to the innovators who modernize water, energy, telecoms, ports, and our airport.
They're the quiet hands that build resilience.
And the vision that keeps Cayman going strong.
Now it's our turn to recognize them. Know someone who built, maintained, or improved the Cayman Islands we love?
Nominate them today at gov.ky/YSCH. Click Nominate today.
Hi there, and welcome back to this episode of Sabrina Speaks. And the topic this evening is From Radar to Response, Cayman's Hurricane Playbook. And we'll be having some guests in from Hazard Management and the Cayman Islands National Weather Service with us later on in this show. And we are going to explore forecasts, shelters, what readiness really looks like in 2025, like right now. And we're going to be speaking with Mr. Mark Codling and from the Cayman Islands National Weather Service, Mr. Shamal Clarke. And we'll be talking pretty much about how storms are tracked and forecast, what triggers national alerts, and even shelter activation, common myths and gaps in the public's preparedness, and whatever Caymanians would be doing this week, or what every Caymanian should be doing this week to stay safe. Now, I've gotten some calls. I have been out on the road just doing 1-2 things myself. And oh my God, it's been mayhem on the road. And based on what feedback I've gotten from friends, it's crazy for what's happening. Buying up a lot of toilet paper. I'm understanding people are just not considering other persons with purchasing water and so much quantities. But yeah, you know what? The mic will be open. The mic is open. Call 345-926-8255. Wonder what your experience has been like. And for those person, it's Dress Down Friday. You should be wearing pink. Thank you for the reminder of my dear friend who called to tell me out politely as well about why people buy ice cream. And I intended to start the show with a bowl of ice cream, but that goes to show you exactly that I'm not a sweet tooth. No hating on anybody. But yeah, I was so politely told out why some people would buy ice cream in the event that power does go out. Then they're not sure when they could get ice cream for weeks after, so they just indulge. But I'm not hating on anyone who loves ice cream. As a matter of fact, if I'm going to indulge on ice cream, it'll be grape nut. Yeah, I remember the days of trifle out in Elizabethan Square, best sundaes and banana splits. So when I do it, I do it. I go hard. But to say like how I know some friends really just sit down with a bucket of ice cream. Oh, I can't do that. No. And even with cakes, my favorite heavy cake is cassava. And I've now drawn to custard top cornbread. And guess what I do? I stand up and I'll scrape off the top and put the bottom to the side. So that's a little bit more about me. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. Happy Friday. How are you?
Same to you, baby. But my thing is, I called the show this morning about that same thing. Yes, so that's crazy. And I say people is out there buying all of this water. If some of the places you can't get in, all that, my dear. One smart person, I got flogged for that because they say that. I say because one man called and he said that they should limit the water because there's people that buying up a whole bunch, and then suppose somebody, don't get none. And I say, yeah, but people not got a consideration. But they say it's not a communist country. I say, but if it's not communist, after COVID, why they were limiting certain things. But this is how people are. This is what I hate to call the show. And then they say about, and I'm not stupid. I know that people will say that they buy in for people that don't have transportation are the most vulnerable. But who to know that that's true? They'll say that so they can get rid of the cases and they make their own self. And then they say, well, suppose a person got a family 6 and this and that. And I say, well, okay, bye. But like I tell them, I got 2 5 gallons up in here. And by the help of God, we're not going to get nothing much from that hurricane. And like I say, as supplies last. And I speak to what happened the Foster Airport. What I see them killing up is diabetic stuff. Because I couldn't have it. So sorry enough for my husband. But that one that you gave me, and they got whole bunches of them now saying, but to me, because I tell you, he have this mucus.
Right.
And I found that one is stronger. I even dilute that in water, but I found when he drink that, because I had
It
tried
gets
it,
wor-
the pear life stuff, but he's still having this pile of mucus.
Yes.
So that's why, to me, the Gosona have less.
Mm-hmm.
But my dear, oh, that's, you have to see the lines out in court, out in
Mm-hmm.
court. Look, I will be going back out there. I buy one tin of corned beef and two. I got 3 tuna fish and 2 for the meat. And I bought 2 breads. I bought one of the breads that Clarke make that look like they came on that bread. I got to try that.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're crazy. And what it say? Certain things, yes, he said it probably gonna, run out. But so far, but what people buying, planting is what they gonna run out of. But they're crazy, and they say, get on with the smartness. And I got called no name. You should know who that is, Miss Fritz, that we talk and saying about this and that, and it not communist country, that about limiting things and this and that and that thing. It's not communist, but you got, because how hateful it is for me to know that I'm not going to use 20 cases and I wouldn't buy 20, but you need to and you don't get none. They got to have humanity about them, but then they get under it there, like toughness and bash people like you fool. I know all about this, and then about other places. Yes, I know that people, some of the small places, small stores buy it, wrap the stuff, and then when it get wrapped, and then they sell it to you there. I know all of that, but then all of that should not be. They shouldn't be like that. That to me, I call that selfishness.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, my love.
It's not communist, but they can limit, because I know one time they had things and they tell the cashier that, well, okay, certain things, they can't go wrong to the shelf, and whatever, but they can tell the cashiers, if somebody comes with more than 5 cases of water, they're not allowed 3 or 2. And then if they, because it happened to me already, that I didn't had limit on stuff, and then they say, well, you can only, I think, with tuna fish, each person could only get 6. And then when another person, they went and they had 112, but then you know what they do? They say they're going to get them. They get 6 and went to one cashier, and then they get 6 more and went to a different cashier. So that's how hateful people are. And I know all of them things, like I say, I know all the tricks. I never been there and did it, but they're not no smarter than me. Maybe because they think that they get on the time, speak proper and thing, but I don't tell them, I ain't a fool.
Thank you for sharing that with us, and I hope that you remain safe.
Somebody going to get on it. Their petiteness and brightness, and they're not the brightest in the world, and bash people talking shit about the country not communist. It wasn't communist.
Mm-hmm. Well, you keep safe, Shalma. Thank you again for letting us know what's going on out there. Yes, my Connie used something else. Melissa didn't take my voice, thank God. But yeah, I'm back. Thank you, Miss Barbara G. Yes. Thank you for your call, my sweet. Yes, we're back. Miss Lucille. Hi, how are you? Help my girl. I am still alive. I'm here with you. Yes. Likewise, my love. Connie, you're going to water your orchids? Mm-hmm. Be right back. You're taking a commercial break. Yes. Real Michelle Teresa says, may God save the toilet paper. Well, maybe I had a joke with a friend who called me about the ice cream. I said, well, maybe they're buying so much toilet paper in case you eat too much ice cream. So that was just a fun joke for a little bit. Miss Lucille says to Shalma, don't worry, Miss Shalma. God is good. God's blessing is on us. So it's good to have everyone here with us as we continue to build this space and we wait for our guests to join us. And while we're doing that, I don't know if you've seen that we have some missing persons out, and I want to get and share this word as well. Missing persons, Corey Brown, and it's Almazar Smith, Honduran national that's 41 years old, and Corey Brown, Caymanian national, 38 years old. Last seen, and that would be on Monday, the 20th of October. Yes, Monday, the 20th of October. And they're asking for help in finding these two fishermen to bring them back to their families and friends. And you can see here there's a Kimmerbach tip line. You can contact 1-345-649-0331. Corey, and let's get them back home. That's Mr. Smith and Corey Brown from Spot Bay right there, a young kid of the soil. I know his people very well. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, their family. Am I? My aunts will have to break that down, but nevertheless, we're such a small community. Everyone knows everyone. I know his mom, his uncle. I know everybody. To say I really know Corey, I don't, but it doesn't matter. These two men have gone out from Monday. We know the inclement weather that is here, and they're asking for your help. I know the Coast Guard were out, but as the weather continues to worsen, our heart goes out for them. And it's the grace of God right now. Yeah, it's the grace of God. So if you have any information, please help in sharing this and seeing if we can bring these two fishermen back to their families and friends here in the Cayman Islands. And here's the tip line again for the sake of those who may just be joining us. We're helping these two men went out fishing on Monday, the 20th of October. That was the last they were seen. 1-345-649-0331. That's the tip line for Kimmerbach tip line. So let's see what we can do to get them here. And as we continue to build this space, and we share with you information as it comes in. I did speak with Woody. I haven't gotten any updates today. I know a lot of you were asking about school closures. And with the latest forecast, once we get those officials on with us momentarily, maybe they may have the latest updates. But based on the forecast that I've just read, and it appears now that the turn is going to be made now, it appears, over Jamaica, which for now lessens the risk of our weather, but it's expected that rains could be impacting our area for an extended period of time. Now, over the weekend, and I know that the Department of Education said that they will make a call during Sunday or sometime on Sunday, whether or not schools will be open. That is why you need to make sure that you keep in contact stay in tune with reliable sources here. And that is why the Cayman Prepared, I shared those two links below before. Make sure that you stay informed with all the latest information as we get it here on this space as well. I will definitely be updating it as I've always been, as updated news with the weather. I've shared the image and all the information there on the Sabrina Turner Facebook page. I'm also updating Instagram and of course all your CMR platform. And I'm quite sure during the weekends, there will be lots of information as we continue to see the movement of this tropical storm, because, oh my God, I was saying to somebody when I went out, and kudos to my friend over there at Flow and all those guys down there at Clean Gas. Hey, I hope everybody keeps safe. And I was saying one thing for sure, this particular system has every meteorologist really scratching their heads, even with the most high-tech systems that they have that they depend on for forecasting. You're hearing they got the GFS model, the American model, and all these different models. Despite all of that, including AI, they're still scratching their heads. And I saw a friend and I said, you know what? They're in uniform services. I said, you know what? Mother Nature takes its own time. And with all of the forecasting, with all of the technology now that we have to help guide us, to give us information on these types of systems, look, we still got to wait. We still got to wait. And at 2 miles an hour in these warm waters, it is something. So it is the same thing. People have been asking whether or not supermarkets going to be open on Sunday and all that sort of stuff. You literally, it's forecast to forecast. And you can't, all we can keep repeating is be prepared. Because even though they gave us that information, these tracks can actually change. And this is why it's important for us to keep abreast with all of the happenings and making sure that you actually stay in tune with all of your local media houses. And without further ado, I hear my guests in the background. It is a pleasure to have them here, and I will bring them in studio. And you know what? Despite all the pressure that they're on, let me just, first of all, I know that the Hazard Management, Cayman Islands National Weather Service is going to be busy. They have been pretty much. But let me say kudos to all of the NRA crews out there who are going out there blowing drains, vacuuming if they have to because our water table is so high. Let me say kudos to all of them. Kudos to all of the frontline service, fire, police, or our frontline staff, and to all of those persons who are working overtime, even our CUC and our telecoms company, everyone. We thank you for your service, because it's times like these that you really, really appreciate them. Because when we're sheltering, hunkering down, probably trying to cook with friends or having a so-called weather party, these men, brave men and women, are actually going out, leaving their families, not sure if they're going to come home to something that's not damaged, but they're there giving of service. So kudos to them, and thank you for your service. But without further ado, I don't want to hold my guests up anymore. It is a pleasure to welcome, for the first time, to the Sabrina Speaks platform. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you? Welcome to the show. Why are you so quiet? There
Good
you
evening. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
There we
good,
go.
good evening, Sabrina, and also to your listeners
How
as
are
well.
you? So good to
Afternoon.
see you. It's good to see you.
Likewise,
You good?
likewise.
Likewise.
Are you
Yeah.
just
Likewise.
putting on a brave face?
We're a little bit of both.
It's amazing in your roles. You got to execute a sense of calmness. You got to, it's just for what you're tasked with doing now, the uncertainty in this particular tropical system. It's like, somebody
Yeah,
said
get it.
maybe if it had named Sabrina, it wouldn't have been so bad. They would understand the personality.
Yeah.
But
That's an
gentlemen, it is a
interesting one.
pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Likewise. Likewise.
So let's start the
Likewise.
stage. I gave a 4:30 update in my version as it's been placed in the public domain, but I know you can break it down how you want it. Please give us a brief update on the current tropical system. I mean, on Melissa, from your lens.
Yeah, so you would have been seeing the same, or you would have seen the same information that we're looking at from the National Hurricane Center. What has been happening for the past day or so is the system has been trying to get its act together. So you find a little bit of a wobble in terms of how it's been moving, and it's been moving very slow. If you recall, overnight we had it at basically stationary, moving sometimes at 1 mile per hour. It has barely picked up to about 2 miles per hour, but that is still relatively slow. So what is happening is that you have other systems around Tropical Storm Melissa they're influencing just how fast it can progress forward, and that's what's contributing to that slower track. Now, those conditions are expected to ultimately change in the next few days once the system kind of moves south of Jamaica. So if you notice from the track that there's a big gap between two data points in it when it's south of Jamaica and then when it's by Cuba, well, what that is saying is that the system is actually going to move pretty quickly past Jamaica and just northeast of Cuba. So that other system that is expected to move across the southeast US is expected to pull Tropical Storm Melissa quickly. Correct. There is some uncertainty again, and I have to stress this. There is uncertainty once we get into next week exactly how this system will move. So you can see that from the cone when you get to day 4, day 5, that there's a little bit of dot there. That is the cone of uncertainty. So what it's saying is that the track could show deviation at anywhere within that cone of uncertainty. So we have to bear that in mind. It's not to say that it will definitively move across Jamaica. There's some degree of uncertainty, and that is why we still urge persons to ensure that you're following all the updates, because from time to time you'll see deviation from these tracks. Now, at this point, it is trending a little bit towards the east from us, which means that the risk has reduced somewhat. But again, what we've seen for the past few days, there have been back and forth with track changes with track. So again, do not drop your guards at this point. We could still see something happen overnight, and we just want everybody to just continue to monitor and ensure that you're following the updates coming out from our team here.
Now, you said the east of us, which would mean, for looking at this picture, it would east of Grand Cayman would be closer to Dominican Republic and Haiti. Correct?
Correct. So yes, that is correct. So if you remember, with one of the updates, we had the track moving just west of Jamaica. So now it's shifting to central Jamaica. So it is trending towards the east, which is further away from us, but closer to the tip of eastern Cuba and then closer to Haiti and the Dominican Republic. So that is correct. Yes.
Okay. It's just for people to get their bearings on this map that we have
Yes,
here. So
yes.
east would be closer to Dominica, west would be closer, treading the needle in between Jamaica and Cayman, and I guess Cayman and Little Cayman,
Cayman.
because we're
Yeah,
due
yeah.
further west
Further west. That is
of those
correct.
two sister islands. Yeah.
That is correct. So in that regards, if any conditions would deteriorate with the system, if it's coming that direction, you would typically see it in the sister islands first before Grand Cayman
Right.
because of that motion. But again, that also depends on the size of the system because the wind fields
Mm-hmm.
could expand far or it could, be tightly wrapped. So those are factors that we have to take into consideration with our decision making process.
It was interesting that you say that because we're looking at that, and I've always heard that there's one side of any tropical cyclone that has the stronger winds. However, the wind field, as you say, in rain and tropical storm conditions, for example, once this becomes a hurricane, could extend far out. Now, we're seeing these different models and images that are showing different colors of rain bands and so forth. So even though the center may not necessarily come even close to the three islands, we could be severely impacted by the amount of rain and bad weather then that could be associated with this system, right or wrong.
That is correct. Again, no two storms typically are the same, but they typically follow a general rule. You have inflow coming into it because the winds are flowing into the center of the system, and that's why you have feeder bands. So that is feeding into the systems, and those feeder bands sometimes can produce squally weathers even in the periphery. So sometimes the storm could be quite a distance away, but you're trapped under one of those feeder bands, and then you could get torrential downpour potentially a day or two after the storm is quite some distance away. In this case, the northeast quadrant of the storm is usually the strongest, which would be again closer to Haiti, Dominican Republic in this case. To a lesser degree, the southwestern quadrant would be kind of the weaker side. So in
Which would
general,
be
we
our
are on the
side.
weaker side. Yeah, so we're generally on the weaker side of the storm. So that is definitely a positive. But again, if it changes or deviate from its current or projected path, then that could change.
Very interesting. Well, based on getting the information out now and this latest update, it's almost forecast to forecast. Would you say that the message would be the same for all three islands, or does it differ when you're looking at this cone of uncertainty?
So again, we try to look for trends before we come to that conclusion because you want to know if it is just a wobble or if it is consistently doing something. So we try to look at trends. In this case, the trend has not been established right now because we've just started to see that eastward shift. However, if it remains at this point, then obviously the sister islands would be potentially at a greater risk than Grand Cayman. And if we look at the probability wind fields from the National Hurricane Center, you'll see higher values for the chance of tropical storm force winds across the sister islands versus Grand Cayman. Again, it just depends on how that system builds and how wide it gets. And then the wind field, again, you could see wind fields off. And this is just a hypothetical scenario, so not necessarily with this storm. So I don't want persons to think this is with this storm. You could have a scenario where tropical storm force winds could extend to the sister islands and stop there. And that would be, just specific to the sister islands in that case, or it could extend all the way. So those are again some of the possibilities and the concerns that we're having at this point in time.
Which is why it's so important for us to be prepared no matter what, because, and the good thing with this particular system is that it's moving so slow. There should be no excuse for not at least having the basic preparations in place.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's twofold. Being slow for this length of time could allow for it to, strengthen somewhat even more in our era versus moving out. But in the concept of preparation, and I know Mark will say that yes, you have ample time. What I want to point out as well is typically in October you don't have this full alert periods, and we know we get very short notice typically at this time of the year when it comes on to tropical storms. In this case, we've had days and days of notification and updates on the system, so persons have enough time to prepare. And again, if you prepare and nothing happens, then we're really happy, because we would have been spared any impacts. But I know some persons might look at it
They
the
get
other way, but
angry. They get angry
yeah,
with you,
and
you know. They say that you don't know
you know,
what you're doing and your forecasting is off.
yeah, but no, we're trying. That's why we make sure everything that we put up, we've calculated, we've checked, and we're putting out the best information. No, we're giving you the best information as we know it at that time.
Right.
Obviously, as more information comes in, that might update. So, which is why from update to update, it might change slightly, which is why it's important to ensure that you're getting the most up-to-date information.
Correct.
Good. Now, what is the biggest misconception the public has about storm forecasts that you have seen in your time of doing this? Biggest
Well,
misconceptions.
it,
Sorry,
it
not to throw you under the bus.
that's a tricky one. I mean, for the most part, the stories I've heard is that persons can control these systems. I think that's one of the wildest ones I've heard. And the truth is, I don't think so. If someone can, I'm not aware of that. So I'll just say that
Right.
if it is out there. But these systems typically follow certain patterns and behavior based on weather conditions and climatological features. So different things that are happening all across the world. So for example, something could be happening in the Pacific and that would influence what is happening in the Caribbean. So there's large scale features that are at play. So that is really what dictates how the system behaves. There's larger environmental conditions that dictates how storms behave.
Mr. Shamal, you got a fan club here. One of my loyalists. I'll just leave it at that until I post it up. I'm going to just make her soak a little bit in the background. Now, what would you say residents could better do? How can residents better interpret weather updates and avoid misinformation? Because there's a lot of information. You're talking about wind speeds. You're talking about like how you were using directions. Some people don't even know where is east, west, north, or south. How can residents better interpret weather updates then and avoid misinformation? Because they're more audible than reading a lot. So this is why when persons like you come on, that we can do it in layman's terms, we can use examples for the sake of getting the message out, yet still being relevant to what's happening, I feel is an advantage.
Agreed. So platforms like this is exactly what is needed. So, and I know when we typically send a forecast out, it might be a text-based and it's hard to interpret sometimes. But
Yeah.
especially with this system, we try to provide specific wording or instructions based on what we're seeing. So a lot of times it's not necessarily trying to interpret it for yourself. So we have done the interpretation for you, and now we're telling you based on what we're seeing, this is what you should expect. These are the actions you're supposed to take. So it's a concept called impact-based forecasting that is being pushed by the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations as well, in providing more useful and actionable information for persons to make those decisions. So we're taking that scientific aspect and then we're going to break it down, interpret it in terms of impacts, and then provide you the actions that you need in order to mitigate any risk associated with any of the hazards with these systems. So the idea is that you don't have to interpret. The idea is that we're giving you the information as we know it factually for you to make those decisions.
Right. Mark, I'm coming to you. So don't think I just got you there for your handsome looks, eh? We just wanted to hear from Shamal because he got his fan club going on here.
Oh yeah, sure indeed.
Tell us about what I have up here on these screens, even though that might be Mark. But when it talks about how do you decide when then to issue watches, warnings, or even advisories? And I noticed great work, guys, that you actually have this out here so persons will understand as you constantly push out this information when you see a certain shade, what it means. But how, from the meteorological standpoint of things, do you make that decision to say, look, government, look, Danny, I think you need to upgrade your watches, to either change it from an advisory to warnings, advisories, and then you get to the all clear. What are those key decision factors?
All right, so I'll speak to the meteorological side of it. So at each stage, there's different conversations that needs to happen in order to go through the different phases. So, for example, in an alert, it's based on when we expect the onset of tropical storm force winds. So we'll run our model projection and we'll see, okay, when do we expect potential tropical storm force winds in the Cayman Islands? And again, it could be for the sister islands only, but we'll consider that as well. And then we'll use that time, and then we'll go back 72 hours, and we say, okay, at this point we would need to issue that type of alert. Similar for a watch, we would then try to calculate from when we expect the onset of tropical storm force winds, and we go back 48 hours.
Correct.
And then when we get to a warning, it would be 36 hours before the onset. So that is how we view it from a meteorological standpoint in terms of the onset of tropical storm force winds. One thing to note is that the same definition is used for a hurricane. It's the onset of tropical storm force winds.
Right.
It's not the onset of hurricane force winds. And if you think about it logically, if you're getting a tropical storm force winds, you're already shut down. So you
Headed
want to
to
be
anyhow.
at the- Correct. So we use the definition, international definition is by once we the onset of tropical storm force winds. The all clear now is multiple factors. So you're talking about, okay, has the winds and the weather conditions subside significantly enough? Yes or no? Are there damages that needs to be assessed? Are there still secondary hazards? Because remember, there's cascading hazards. You have the storm itself that comes with the rain, the winds, but then you could have secondary hazards such as down light pole with electrical light wires and those kind of stuff. All of those have to be considered before an all clear can be given, because again, you don't want to give an all clear and have individuals out there in unsafe environment. So for the alert, watches, and warning is typically tied to the onset of tropical storm force winds, but the all clear requires a little bit more communications and discussions between different agencies. But Mark can talk about that in terms of what goes on in the background and what that looks like.
Sure. Welcome. Yeah, you
Welcome.
want to do official drum roll or what?
No,
It's a
welcome.
pleasure,
Thanks
Mark.
again.
Sure, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Always again, and a wonderful afternoon to your listeners. I think a key thing for us is really to have those plans in place and to piggyback on what Shamal just mentioned with the whole different phases you're looking at with the alert 72 hours. From our standpoint within our plans, we speak carefully to what actions do we take within that 72 hours. So if we do issue an alert for this particular event, tropical storm, Melissa, what we're looking at is what actions, what are the resources, or what do you need to deploy ahead of time. As time proceeds and when we're now 2 days, 48 hours away, again, we look at our actions, make sure we review what are our assets, how do we deploy, and of course, with our persons are now getting ready onto that phase. Once we hit that warning, which is red, we're pretty much in the final preparation stage. And what this basically tells us is that we should have all our systems ready to go if we have a potential impact. Once we have that impact, and as alluded to by Shamal, we are creating a section where we'll have our teams that would go out and do those assessments to get an idea, is it safe for the public to proceed? And if so, then we proceed with that all clear. So all of these are systems that we have in place, systems that we undertake in terms of exercises, because very importantly, we practice, and of course, if we do have a event of such nature, then we have our plans in place that we can execute and always learn from the lessons that we had in the past.
Definitely. That's always a key.
Always.
So how does Hazard Management Cayman Islands coordinate with the Cayman Islands National Weather Service? And, you got the NEOC and other agencies. What actually, we've gone through all of those shades and all that sort of stuff. But
Correct.
how does how does it all work?
I think it's a two-way it's a two-way relationship. I think one of the key things we need to understand, if as Shamal just mentioned, when it comes to any form of weather, inclement weather condition that would impact the islands, they would notify us as hazard management, and within our plans, it speaks to what actions do we take. So if we're looking at significant rainfall, say over 3 inches of rain expected, what actions are we looking at? One Is it going to flood? For certainly, we're trying to understand that. And within those plans, the weather service would provide us those forecasts and then the actions that we take. Because he mentioned the whole idea of having the impact-based forecasting. Because really what we're trying to do is action-oriented. So while you'll have the forecast, what action does the public need to take? So when you mention to somebody, we're going to have 3 inches of rain, what does that mean for the average person, right?
Right.
But if you're going to say, if we have flooding, it could impact your property, you could have roadways that are inundated, then the public start to now visualize and say, okay, this is what's going to take place if we have 3 inches of rain. And it's a common practice. I know Shamal is quite familiar with some best practice out of Barbados. They're very active in that area where they publish and really push for impact-based forecasting. So again, that notification, understanding, because again, the weather service is a subject matter expert, just like how we have other entities within government, for example, Department of Environment, or colleagues from the water company. All of these entities have their different areas in which, if there's any form of situation, of course, even our colleagues from the Ministry of Health, if there's any form of issues or challenges, we have our plans that would be executed. Our key role under our law is to really focus on the whole coordination of any major incident or emergency that
Right.
requires multi-agency collaboration. And that sits within the NEOC system, which is the National Emergency Operating Center. And what that does for us is, one, we speak with one voice.
Uh-huh.
Secondly, we coordinate in such a way that information flows very seamlessly, especially to our decision makers and to the executive, and that moves to the cabinet. So the Honorable Premier, as well as Her Excellency the Governor, they are being chairs of the executive. They are able now to receive that information in a very timely manner and make the right decisions. So again,
Right.
it's information flow from the top to the bottom as well as from the bottom to the top. So it's very important for us to have structure. And throughout the year, like for example, annually in June we have our national hurricane exercise, and that's a very massive undertaking that goes for almost a week. And within that week, we have over 30, 40 agencies that are participating. And again, within that structure, we have one, our human concerns cluster, which focuses on that human element, for example, shelter management, medical relief. We have our infrastructure cluster, so we're looking at our communication, our telecos, our water, our light. So we're closely again with the private sector, CUC, and of course the public water company as well as a private water company, and home gas and all those different entities. Another cluster as well that we look at is emergency response, our blue light entities, our emergency responders, fire service, the Coast Guard, as well as our colleagues from 911 and the fire service. So all of those entities under those clusters would deal with any form of emergencies. And of course, working close with our CERTs and our emergency response team, they play a critical role in the communities. So recently, with the potential impact of tropical storm, Melissa, what we'd have done is work close with our certs, and one of the key things we're looking at is establishing sandbag stations where we could
Oops.
distribute
Sorry.
sandbag to to our community members. And we started 2 days ago. We're ramping up our initiative for tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, given the proximity and time is coming close and the potential impacts that we could occur possibly next week. We're ensuring that persons are prepared and we give persons enough time. So once again, protecting not just lives but your property, and a big
Right.
part of that you'll see over the last couple of days is that initiative. So tomorrow we'll be at the following locations. We'll be at off Linford Purser Highway, that's Outpost Street. That's a new bypass heading into Windsor Park. Along that roadway, we have established cones for safety where we have locations for persons. So they come there, we have the regiment and our CERTs to assist with filling of sandbags, as as well as another location in West Bay Fire Station. Also, we have the regiment and the CERTs. Also at the agricultural grounds, that's in Bodden Town. We
Right.
also have our teams there, and by Frankstown, by the fire station as well. We'll also have another site established, and at those
I
sites, we're
saw.
asking persons to come
Go
out,
ahead.
and we're also working. And a massive shout out to our Cayman Islands Fire Service. They have been doing a significant amount of work. I see a few comments coming up for persons who need assistance, especially persons who are elderly. The fire service is there to assist, and we have our teams out there as well for tomorrow that are willing to assist our seniors. I know the Cayman Islands Red Cross as well have been assisting a lot of elderlies and persons who would need sandbag. So we
Mm-hmm.
ask the persons to reach out and really, support the initiative.
Okay. Yeah, and these sites were actually set up from what, Tuesday? I think it was from Tuesday. They have been actually going hard at
So Tuesday,
distributing
yes.
sandbags. Yeah,
Yeah.
from Tuesday,
It's
and
for
also in the
Tuesday.
sister
Today,
islands as well.
Sister Islands as well. So Little Cayman
Mm-hmm.
as well. Today we
Right.
had a slow turnout, but we're trying to ramp up our initiative for Saturday and Sunday because we know that there's a major uptick, and we bear in mind, especially for our vulnerable groups.
Right, right. Now, with even though we're seeing based on the what you reported in the forecast and the direction, we can expect, and I think this is going to Shamal, more rain. Now, we've been having on and off rain, nothing comparison to what Jamaica has been having in the past, I would say a couple of weeks, right? But the mere fact, one, that our water table is so high that could actually make absorbing all of the excess rain even slower, therefore more stagnation. What is forecasted where rainfall is concerned for this particular system, Clarke?
All right. So you said something important that I want to touch on first before I give those values. So the water table being high, having high tide, having rainfall for the previous few days will slow how fast the water filters. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
key part of the decision making process that we're discussing and what we're undertaking. Now, what we're
Mm-hmm.
forecasting for next week when the system is at its closest point, again, there's various solutions to the models, and that is a little bit far out there. So
Uh-huh.
those values could change. But right now we're looking at, an average about 3 inches of rainfall between maybe about Tuesday, Wednesday, thereabout. So we're expecting about 3 inches of rain possibly. Now, again, it all depends on the bands that are feeding into the storm and how much, I will not get too technical around, but how much moisture is there around the area, because that will
Mm-hmm.
actually influence how much rainfall happen. And then again, to the point, you might have a squall line. So sometimes you find, and I'll just say maybe a rogue system, a rogue
Mm-hmm.
cloud that just comes in. So we are forecasting 2 inches of rain on average,
Mm-hmm.
but you might have a cloud that just comes and sit there and give you 3 inches. So again, we have to factor in those possibilities with the system. But on average, we're estimating about 3 inches of rainfall for the event next week. So add that in, and that is could be a flooding type scenario, if
Ah.
that should happen.
Mm-hmm. So when we hear about
But
these
it's
3 inches in rain, that's not like a carpenter's 3 inches, though.
no, so that's what I was just about to try to explain that a little bit more. So it would be good, and I one of the things that I know we want to try to do is to try to use previous scenarios or examples to match what
Yeah,
we're
like from
forecasting,
previous,
because it's
yeah,
hard. Yes,
systems.
correct.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to visualize what does that mean on the
Correct.
ground,
But
right?
people
Correct.
Now,
remember Ida, Grace, Gilbert,
correct.
Ivan. Yeah.
And 3 inches of rainfall, it's a difficult one to put with a strong system or a well-defined system that impacted us significantly, because in those cases we actually got more. But if you remember earlier, we issued a flood warning for portions of Georgetown. We did that, I think that was in August.
Yeah.
So in that case, we anticipated about 3 to 4 inches of rainfall. So if persons are wondering what that looks like, yes, it could look like that. But here's the thing: it's 3 to 4 inches spread out over a day or two. So it's
Ah.
not 3 to 4 just
An hour.
happening really
Yeah.
quick in an hour or two. So that will then change how
Spread.
fast it actually
Yeah.
correct. And that so
And high
that is
tide, low
it's
tide.
correct. So
Yeah.
all of that has to be factored in to the degree of flooding that could be experienced. So we have to calculate, okay, how much hours do we expect it to spread over, and ultimately what type of flooding we could see on the ground. But right
Mm-hmm.
at this point, it's hard to visualize, but those are the values. And maybe we'll work to see if we can get something out in the public sphere regarding what does 3 inches of rainfall look like, so persons could have an idea. And
Yeah,
that would definitely help to understand what we're expecting from this system.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And I know you hear about storm surge and all of this. This all is a part of everything. We're standing water. Flooding may also be an issue as well. What I haven't really been hearing much forecasted about all of that.
Yeah, so for storm surge, again, it's a little bit tricky because for us in this case, so we can't necessarily, we're not seeing storm surge because you need that system to be pushing that water towards you. So it is constantly pushing the water, pushing at you. And in this case, we're not necessarily seeing that solution. And because of that, we're not anticipating storm surge at this point. Again, could that
Okay.
change? Yes, it could change. All right. So we want persons to understand that should the track change, certain things that are not a possibility at this point in time could become a possibility.
Yeah.
And even some of the things that are possibilities now could no longer be a possibility. So that's the uncertainty that we're dealing with this system. Again, it has been tricky. And if you remember, we saw like polar
Yeah.
opposites in terms of the solutions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what we've been working with. So trying to
Right.
find a balance between what could happen, it has been a challenge, but we've been providing those updates as best as possible for persons to make decisions.
I agree.
Now, this must made both of your lives so frustrating because I was saying even to a friend earlier on, you know what? I prefer those quick moving storms. You know, you got X amount of hours and they're in and they're out. But this one, it seems like we've been talking about this from week before last and going to be
That is
talking
correct.
about it into next week.
Yeah, almost 3 weeks.
That is correct. It feels like some time now and potentially into next week. Yeah. So we still have a few more days to go before it is, out of our area. And again, as it moves into the Atlantic, it doesn't mean that it couldn't influence the weather conditions here. It could still do that.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. But it has been tricky, and I know you said it. So just to say, the two updates I think it was had the system moving east southeast.
Yes.
So put that into perspective. It was moving in the opposite direction that it was projected
Right.
to move, and again, these are things that then we have to refactor in and recalculate, and then the National Hurricane Center will re-update the runs and give a different projection based on the new location that the system moved in, and that's what's resulting in those slight deviations in
Correct.
forecast track.
Correct. Now, we're not wishing this system on anybody, but it's obvious Jamaica is going to be impacted, right? Understanding the mountainous terrain of Jamaica, and that actually can weaken this already undecided, unpredictable system. People may have heard the 4:30 update and almost like a little sigh of relief, but yet their heart still hurts for Jamaica, for Haiti, for the DR. What would you say in regards to that, where rapid intensification is concerned? Because right now we saw where the center was pretty much meandering over water and not necessarily over land. With what was described in the last forecast and what could be expected, if that goes over land, could this be a thing of the past, or could it regenerate after it comes off of land?
All right, so good point. Yes, the mountains in Jamaica will play a factor in the strength of the system. The actual forecast from the National Hurricane Center does reflect that. So you'll see a major hurricane to the south and then a hurricane to the north, which means it would have, dropped in strength. So it will play a role factor, and then the interaction with Cuba as well will also play a role in the system. Now, as far as what happens after is beyond the forecast period, so it's a little bit tricky if the system will actually survive past that stage, or it could, re-intensify. We don't know, but model indication right now is that it just projects into the Atlantic, and we can't say definitively what will happen there, but it does make that quick move, which is, I guess it's really good that it just in a day moves from south of Jamaica basically to north of the Bahamas. So that is definitely good news. But for the past few days, and at least for the next 2 to 3 days, to your point, that's a lot of rainfall that would be dumped on Jamaica, and then a lot of wind. So they have the advisories that are out, and the message from the National Hurricane Center, if you read the discussion, it does talk about those catastrophic type scenarios, which is not ideal for anyone. We don't want these systems. We wish these systems would stay over water entirely.
Right.
But the reality of it is that we live in a part of the world that these systems will just always happen, and that's why it's important to be prepared.
Always.
Right. Now, how do you all handle misinformation like social media or even in the community, understanding how accessible all of these other media houses, TV stations, and now you got people can pretty much convert a garage or a closet and become a meteorologist just regurgitating other information. How do you all handle that to keep it real, to keep it focused? Look, I am saying this is what is for Cayman. Please listen to what we're saying. How do you all handle misinformation, and especially the role now that social media is playing and what
Yeah,
you're competing with? It's almost like you're doubting
definitely.
yourself, so
Yeah.
you go scratch your head.
Yeah, so it has been a challenge, and I've been privileged to be in some conversations on the global scale with
Mm-hmm.
different countries, different meteorological services across the world that they have similar issues with the wealth of information that is out there in the
Yeah.
public sphere, how accessible it is. And one of the things that is general consensus across every service is that you just continue to do what you're supposed to do, which is provide
Mm-hmm.
the best information you can. At the end of the day, it to say compete, if you start to compete, and this is just how I look at it, if you
Yeah.
start to compete with what is out there, then the whole objective of why you're doing it becomes a little bit diluted. And at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, if you're rushing to get information out because you know someone else might get it out before you risk making errors.
Quality.
So I'd
Mm-hmm.
much rather take my time, do my analysis, do my assessment, and provide the information, because at the end of the day, we're not looking at things for the entire Caribbean per se. We have to
Mm-hmm.
then narrow it down for everyone here in the Cayman Islands. So we take
Right.
the time to make sure that that information is customized as best as possible
For
for here.
Cayman. Mm-hmm.
Correct. So we're not necessarily given a Caribbean forecast. We're given a forecast for the Cayman Islands.
Correct.
And
Mm-hmm.
that is the key. So we have to consider our local conditions, the how weather typically behaves in the Cayman Islands. And there's some local effects that the global models will never pick
Consider.
up. But as a forecaster through
You know,
experience,
it's
you're
true.
aware that, yeah,
Yeah.
you're aware of certain trends and certain patterns. And if you see it, you're saying, okay, why isn't the model saying it's going to rain, but I know it's going to
Mm-hmm.
rain? Or why is
Mm-hmm.
the model saying it's going to rain and I know it's supposed to be sunny? So those are
Right.
some of the things that we know through experience and we understand in terms of the geography and the location. And then we'll customize that information that is in the global sphere, the global models, and then transition that to what it means for us here in the Cayman Islands.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. So it is, and even what we're seeing now happening with AI, they could actually get snippets of your voices today and then just go
Correct.
and
Yeah.
blow something out of proportion tomorrow. So you're constantly having to be policing even your own social media sites.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think there's a lot of work being done by our Department of Communication. I mean, they have
Mm-hmm.
been really ramping up efforts around
Yeah.
misinformation. I think
Mm-hmm.
that is really key. I think constant monitoring is one, but also ensuring you employ the right strategies, and of
Correct.
course, encourage persons to follow official government sources.
Which
It's a
leads
global issue.
into,
It's not.
it's true, we're all competing, and it doesn't really matter what industry, but I mean, with what we're facing with right now, you want to make sure that I'm on the right side, that it is you too that I'm listening to and not somebody saying something else, which goes
Agreed.
into education. What do you feel, both of you, your honest opinion, we could do
Mhm.
better in educating our community, youth, seniors, because we're all, and even those vulnerable communities where they're like, look, I am living from hand to mouth anyhow, but they may process the risks totally different. And it's a matter of
Yes.
educating everyone. It doesn't matter age, net worth, their social standing. What do you feel we could better do to educate
I think there's
the public?
twofold. Yeah. I think there's twofold. I allow Shaman to speak more on the weather element, but as it relates to from a disaster management standpoint,
Mhm.
it's really ensuring that our young ones, starting at, even the kindergarten stage. Because one of the
Mhm.
things we need to do is to instill those behavior. Because I think it's the behavior that we see. In some
Yeah.
jurisdiction or territories, you'll find persons operate in a very uniform manner in the sense that based on the culture, based on how the type of practices and behavior. So
Mhm.
I think it has to be something that we focus on that behavioral change from the get-go. And I think those habits and practices is what you'll employ as you go forward. I think that's what
Mhm.
I see as the greatest strength. I know, for example, we have done a lot of work around sensitizing and having some form of promotions around
Right.
educating our public and being prepared. And while we see that, you'll see how is it that persons wait until the last minute. But we need to look at behavioral change. And of course, one of the key things is the lessons learned. As here on Ireland, you'll find a lot of persons make reference to Ivan.
Yeah,
And
because
that
that's
is
the last
is a
thing that stands
major,
out. Yeah.
exactly. And it's a
Well, if
major
I survived
benchmark.
Ivan, oh, this is nothing. Or they will say,
Yeah.
oh, that's just a tropical storm. I survived Ivan, and that was a Cat
That's
5.
Yeah. But it's important to also understand the impacts of climate change and the dynamics of the landscape for the Cayman Islands has changed significantly, and that poses new risk,
Exactly.
right? So we
Mm-hmm.
also need to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
as like everything is just constant development and learning, and of course, best practices. And it's important for us not to learn from your own mistake, but to learn from others so you don't
Correct.
end up making those mistakes. I think that's very important for us to think. But my biggest push would really that behavioral change, instilling those behaviors from a
Mm-hmm.
very tender or young age. Shaman, do you want to add on
Yes.
the
Yes.
weather?
No, you,
No.
Something
you.
that
I think you captured it well because that goes for anything at this point in time, ensuring that you have the right mentality as it relates to whatever it is, whatever concert it is. In this case, we're talking about weather conditions, but it's applicable to other things as well. Your
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
behavior, your mindset about
Mm-hmm.
something is important, and it starts with us doing the best job we can to
Yeah.
educate the
correct.
public. So we've done,
Correct.
projects in the schools where we go and we discuss different weather conditions and that kind of stuff. We've partnered with hazard management on some of those previously. So trying
Mm-hmm.
to get out there and give
Mm-hmm.
person a better understanding of what these conditions look like, what could happen, and try to bring home the reality of what could happen, and just bring that awareness. Again, it is important once we've managed to
Yeah.
get persons to start thinking. For example,
Yeah.
there was the concept of just making sure you have a bug out bag at your door, and it's for us that we work in this,
Right.
and we're thinking, okay, having our own bug out bag, but we're telling everybody, make sure you do this, make sure you do this. And then I stopped and I was like, okay, well, I have my batteries, I have my flashlights, I have everything, but where's my bug out bag? So
Mm-hmm.
it's the little is this, and then it's for everyone to start thinking, what can I do to ensure that I'm prepared? So the
Mm-hmm.
thing with the different colors that we talked about earlier, and this is perfect.
Yeah.
Each alert color is synonymous with different actions at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of a tropical storm or hurricane event, you'll still see these same colors, which means that okay,
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a yellow color, which is an alert phase for an event, it means that it's not as bad, obvious. But when you get
Be
to an
aware.
orange, it's more of okay, this thing
Yeah.
could potentially impact me more significantly. Red meaning okay, yeah, I need to start doing something.
Correct.
So once you
Right.
start seeing these colors, the idea is that your action should change as well. So you change
Mm-hmm.
based on what? So the moment it is the visual cues that you see this coming out from the government, any
Mm-hmm.
department, you'll know, okay, the level of threat associated with what we're talking about. And you'll
Okay.
instantly know, okay, I should be doing this at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. We got a caller. Good evening, caller. You're live.
Yeah, I just want to put in this little piece and see if I think that this makes sense. Yes, I hear a lot of people that yes, I-1 were bad, but then what people need to realize, just listen to this. They say, like I say, I got faith that nothing much can harm us, but they always say it's better to be safe than sorry. And you're expecting the best, but then prepare for the worst. And then just using this term, look at this. I've seen, just for instance, an accident. I've seen accident that like is major, not a serious accident, and people get killed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've seen other accident that like the car is beyond repair and whatever, and people say, well, my God, whoever won that, I know they never survived, and they survived, so that's how you got to take. Because like I said, I remember bad. The water was up to my in like that guy was saying, 2-3 inches of rain is a lot. The water was up to my window, almost to the sill outside. My daughter's car was submerged because we like, but then like I say, you can't say because I-1 this mightn't go a cat whatever I-1 was. This could probably just be a 2 or a 3, but it could be worse. So this is it. You never
That's
know.
true.
You gotta be prepared. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Yep. Thank you, caller,
Definitely.
for your
Agreed.
contribution. And you know what's interesting?
Definitely.
The direction in which it comes to Cayman also matters. What happens? Because you could get one coming along eastern that comes around South Sound and then goes up north to West Bay. And then you could have one that just comes straight across north side, the North Sound. Direction matters. If you don't mind
Yes,
just
it does.
explaining that. And I didn't go to meteorological school, for the record, and I failed geography.
Yeah, so no, that is actually geography was one of my favorite subjects. So I will just start with that. But yes,
Likewise,
you are indeed correct. Direction matters a lot. For example, in the event of, and I'll use storm surge as the example. If you have a system coming from the south, you have a lot more water to the south. So you have a lot more water being pushed, and that system is dragging all the way, all that water up towards you. But if the system is coming from the east, which is by, let's say, Dominican Republic, Haiti coming across, then you don't necessarily have that much. And then you have all of that interaction with land that would then disrupt the wind field. And again, you do not have what we call a long fetch. So that body of water is not the same as what is to the south. So potentially what level of storm surge you experience could differ. And this is for the same strength system. So if the system is a category 1 coming from the south versus a category 1 coming from the east, you could see potentially different scenarios. Again, one of the other things to the caller's point is that no two storms are the same, and I'd mentioned that in the beginning. So, for example, if you have a system moving quickly, it doesn't stay long, but is a category 3, you might not get, let's say, for example, a lot of down trees and power lines. But if you have a slow moving system that is a category 1 that is just constantly hitting something, eventually it could topple, especially if you have a lot of rainfall that then produces loose soil, and you have the winds just hitting, then and you could see a lot more damage. So again, we don't want persons to necessarily just use a previous storm and say, okay, well, we got through that, which means that we should be fine. Again, to Mark's point, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. The landscape has changed. So we have to consider all of those factors in our decision making process.
And every time a new subdivision or new construction happens or a new road, directional flow of even storm water runoff can actually,
Correct.
where used to flood may not flood, or what it could now be serious flood issues. It's a lot to really take into consideration. Now let's look, because we're coming back to reality right now with what Melissa is doing or not doing. What would be some of the suggested things you would say to what would be one thing that pretty much every Caymanian should be doing this weekend to prepare? People are going to probably hold us to the 4:30 forecast and the update that it looks now like it's going to go over Jamaica, but there's still so much uncertainty. The pace is still at a snail's pace. What is really one thing every Caymanian should be doing this weekend to prepare, in your opinion?
I think we'll tag team it, but I'll give my side from the other management piece. I think there are some critical elements to it. That personal preparedness, starting with, and of course your family, for first and foremost. Ensuring that your property as well is protected. So one key element as well is whatever important documents, safeguarding your doors, windows, that sort of stuff. And also being your brother's keeper, because there's a lot of persons. So while some person might be fortunate enough to ensure that they have sandbags, proper shutters at their windows, you'll have other persons who would need a hand, particularly vulnerable groups. So looking out for our colleagues and our brothers and sisters is very important. Working as a community, ensuring again, of course, our colleagues from the DEH, they'll be doing their, if we are being impacted by any significant storms of such, they'll be doing their last final cleanup to ensure that there's no debris that's laying around that could cause act as a missile that could impact property or persons. So again, that personal preparedness is one, and ensuring that we have thinking about if we're impacted, how quickly can we recover, ensure you have food supplies in place, so
Right.
drinking water for at least minimum 3 days. So it's really important for us to, of course, having that plan B ensuring you have your backup power, your batteries, all of those supply, your medication. Very importantly, we ask persons. I know the next couple of days, Saturday, persons are going to be out there, shopping to get their
Yeah,
supplies. So it's
correct.
really ensuring that from a personal standpoint, and of course, when you have a strong community and engagement of families and everything, you'll have a strong country. So it's really working together in a collaborative spirit.
Hmm.
And then Shama, I didn't your
Yeah.
piece
No,
now.
I'm leaving preparedness to you.
But I know
I'll speak to
somebody
the
who
science
say, and I
side.
got deliberately do this one now. They go wait for you. You think you could be quiet all along? Somebody, Miss Connie Bonnie, says, "Well, I'll wait on a call from Shamal to say, Auntie or Uncle Danny, batten up. Until then, I'm easy." You see how much pressure they're
Fair
putting on
enough.
you, my friend. I hope
Fair enough.
this is the one that is. I didn't know you were
Fair,
family to Connie.
fair,
Now I getting into your
fair,
business.
fair enough.
Small world, huh?
Yeah. So I
Yes,
mean,
Connie
again,
Bonnie.
I
She called it out.
again, if I'll provide the same information to my family as I will to the public. If I try to tell persons, do not panic. Have a plan, ensure that your plan is up to date, you check your stuff, and just if you're prepared, then you don't need to panic and worry.
Yeah.
And that is the
Yeah.
key. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if the threat looks higher and then you assess your level of preparedness, do I need to
Mm-hmm.
improve on that? But it should not be that you're now starting a preparedness plan
Yes.
at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
It should have been that
Right.
you had a system in place prior to. All right. So that is what I encourage, everyone to do. So again, if there's a higher threat, I'll communicate that through our messaging, but then I'll also
Mm-hmm.
communicate that to my own family to ensure that they're following and doing what they're supposed to do, because you have to practice what you're preaching at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. Even though they say shoemaker wear the worst shoes, but I'll leave that different from the meteorological standpoint to professions. When you're looking at this cone, when you look at this cone, I think where preparation is concerned and for how long we have been speaking about this particular tropical cyclone, right? We should be in check, cross check, and reconfirm by tomorrow. To be honest with
Agreed.
you, I don't think anybody
Correct.
should be
Correct.
panicking come tomorrow afternoon. For the amount of
Agreed.
time that we have heard about this, I feel that's where pretty much a lot of us should be at. We should be check, cross check, and reconfirm. And you're pretty much like you
That's right.
rightfully say, you shouldn't be panicking or having anxiety attacks unless people have never experienced this before. And we know that we may have a lot of new people to our
Person,
shores.
yeah.
But what I'm saying, for
Correct.
the length of time that we have been talking about this particular system, I couldn't dare to see why supermarkets, Price Right, Cost You Less, and all of those stores should be just flooded with people tomorrow. Should anything wobble to say, okay, well, it's definitely coming to the Cayman Islands.
Yes, yeah.
Agreed. So even if you weren't prepared before, you've had the past 3 days or so, almost a
Mm-hmm.
week,
I would say, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
almost a week
Yeah.
of information
Yeah.
saying that there's
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty and we could experience some conditions. So you've had that information.
Right.
So you should have been making those small increments of preparedness actions over the past week to ensure that you're at least ready in any eventuality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, I mean, we started our sandbag operation for the past
Mm-hmm.
3
Week.
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
days. Yeah. Almost going into another 2 more days. So again,
Mm-hmm.
it's always good to stay ahead of time. And I guess from the operational side, we as an organization, both hazard management and the partnering agencies, any form of incoming weather conditions, we typically have monitoring systems that we are seeing way ahead of time to
Correct.
really ensure. So when we execute our plans, these are plans that
Mhm.
are actually done way in advance, as you rightfully know, Sabrina, in terms of how the government would operate and trying to execute them in a very
Mhm.
timely manner to safeguard both property and life.
What are the like top 3 items you think people overlook most in their hurricane kits? Understanding even you guys who work in your front line, you're guiding pretty much the government. You're feeding them with information. But even yourselves, as you rightfully said, you got your bags by the door and all that sort of stuff. What are 3 items people usually overlook in their hurricane kits if they're all into preparation and that sort of stuff? There's usually something you overlook.
Yeah, I
If
see
your
an
memory could
indication here
serve you
just
well.
But
Yeah,
they are.
You
So
take
used
one
to
and
it.
I'll take one, but I'll take the first for me personally.
Yeah.
So I learned this years ago, and it came up again
Yeah.
from someone else last year. Well, I think it was last year, yes, and earlier this year again. It is
Uh-huh.
activities for kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
Activities for kids, because
Yes.
a lot of, we're in the age of technology
Correct.
with these kids, and if the power goes out and there's no
Mm-hmm.
internet,
Yeah.
what are you doing then?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's finding board games or different activities that would keep the kids occupied
Yeah.
and
Occupied.
entertained.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
it will potentially impact the mental health of the children. So we want to
Yeah.
ensure that while it is still a stressful event potentially, we want to be as calm and reduce some of the other variables that could contribute to the high stress environment. So having activities, think about how you're going to entertain each other in that space that you could be in for
Mm-hmm.
some time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're
Mm-hmm.
without power. I think that's one of the key elements. I think we are heavily reliant, especially in our mobile tablets, phones, all these
Mm-hmm.
devices. An
Mm-hmm.
important thing as well, not just the tablets, but even our debit card. So I think one of the things we
Yeah.
commonly miss, and one of my colleagues just mentioned to me, is the whole aspect of cash.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we you have to remember, they always say cash is king. But it's
Mm-hmm.
important for us to at least have cash with us, especially if we're about to
Couple
be
dollars.
impacted by a significant environment. Yeah, yeah. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
when we have lost the power, loss of communication, those could hinder your
Mm-hmm.
purchasing ability. So
Right.
I think that's often overlooked at times because we get so reliant on such, cashless society
Correct.
approach in terms of how
Correct.
we
Correct.
conduct our transactions.
Wow. You can see a question or come up, and I think that is a question. Propose wind speed and direction projections.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so the direction again, moving from south of Jamaica across Jamaica and towards Cuba. The last update I know was somewhere close to potentially a Category 4
Mm-hmm.
hurricane. So I don't want to misquote the actual value, but that would be at about 140 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
That would be on day 5, which would be next week, Wednesday or Thursday, thereabout.
Yeah.
So at about close to a Category 5 type scenario, Category 4 for sure. It wouldn't be in this one, probably be in the report from the National Hurricane Center. They give like a
Oh, okay.
wind breakdown that you could look at.
Uh-huh.
Okay, at
No,
day
I don't have
5,
that
we're
image.
expected to be at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that one, I mean, I could check real quick, if you don't
Mm-hmm.
mind. I'll
No,
just to
I
give
don't.
the
Hey, this is your space. You give us the
yeah.
latest, what you got. And if you got any little secrets, tell us too, while I just deal with my Mr. Codling here. Any advice for families with children or even elderly members?
I think when it comes the key requirements, especially for elders, especially persons who require support, not just checking in, but also you
Mm-hmm.
have your supplies of medication ahead of time as well. So at least
Mm-hmm.
minimum 2 weeks supplies of your medication. And with what
Mm-hmm.
we saw, especially within our messaging, that's been pushed out a lot. There's a great focus around our vulnerable groups, and we have
Right.
really, really made that significant effort towards it. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to our kids, and our colleague just mentioned, we have been working closely, especially with our colleagues from the Human Concerns Cluster. We have
Mm-hmm.
developed material that really focus, especially within the shelters, for example. There are booklets,
Mm-hmm.
there are games in which that they can engage. And that's something that we have really worked on. And kudos to the colleagues from
Mm-hmm.
our Human Concerns Cluster for really developing that idea and bringing that to fruition. So if we do have a shelter that's activated, we have mechanisms
Mm-hmm.
in which we can engage children in such manner. Because again, within these groups, the elderly, our kids, these are groups that are after any significant event, especially for a hurricane or
Mm-hmm.
a major storm, they're impacted in different ways. The psychological impact, as well as sometimes they're out of school. What does that mean?
Right.
So all of
Right.
these we need to have considerations and plans in place, and working
Mm-hmm.
closely, and making the necessary measures that can
Now
safeguard
you
our vulnerable groups.
Now, Mark, you keep talking about clusters, and I know context matters for the sake of those who may not understand. Once NEOC is set up, that you had what Mark is explaining is these clusters, you have groups of individuals that have been tasked with certain things. And these groups,
Correct.
for what he is describing, is described as clusters. And those clusters are comprised of people from, let's say, the utilities companies, which would be your CUC, your water authority, that sort of stuff.
Your
Even
home
I think
gas.
DEH, home gas, and all of that. Then you
Home
have
gas,
another
correct.
cluster that looks from the merchant side of things. That would be your supermarkets, maybe your hoteliers, and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff, correct? And then
Yes,
there'll be
yes,
another cluster that looks at something else. So for the sake of information and your understanding, because they may be live and you may understand, oh, we're going to this cluster. That's what a cluster, for the sake of how that room is then
Yes.
set up in the event NEOC
Correct.
is actually initiated. So for context really matters, and I didn't want anybody to get lost when they hear
No,
the
sure,
word
no, and I appreciate that. I
cluster.
appreciate that, given
Mm.
the wide audience of it. It's very important again, because different countries, for example, like in New Zealand, they refer to them as groups, you know.
Mhm.
So they would
But we
have, for
call them
example, lifeline
clusters.
groups.
Right.
Yeah, we call them clusters. So they're for their lifeline groups. In our case, would be infrastructure. So lifeline
Mhm.
groups would be reference to like your electric, your water, your gas, your telecommunication. So
Mhm.
again, similar essence in trying to achieve the goal, but again, in terms of how its context is varies with different territories and countries.
Mhm. Correct. Yes, I think you had a
I
weather
got the
thing. You were going
answer.
to share with us the
Yep.
latest
Yeah.
So
information. Yeah.
I checked the information just to see the breakdown of the exact wind speed at specific days and that kind of thing. And for the system for Tropical Storm Melissa, it does look like it should go through a rapid intensification process south of Jamaica.
Oh, wow.
And the most recent projections from the National Hurricane Center has winds reaching up to potentially 155 miles per hour. To put that
Which
into
would be equivalent
context,
to a cat. What?
that would be 2 miles less than a Category 5 hurricane.
Wow.
On the ground,
Oh,
no
wow.
one is telling the difference between those speeds. So yes, they're projecting inland in Jamaica could experience up to 155 miles per hour winds.
And this is by when?
So this would be by, if we pull up the chart for me that we just see, the tracking
Oh,
chart
the
was
one that
there
I had.
just so,
Yeah.
yep.
Mhm.
Yep. So that's
Okay.
by Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So by Tuesday, that is what they're projecting.
Yeah. So no, it's so
Oh my.
close.
Yeah. Our thoughts and
Yeah.
prayers go out to the people of Jamaica, man.
Yeah, this is just a
Definitely.
projection at this point
Yeah,
in
yeah,
time.
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
numbers could
Mhm.
change, but we pray and hope that that does not become a reality.
Mhm.
That is definitely a dangerous system. Again, dealing with winds and a lot of rain
Yeah.
does not help infrastructure at all.
Mhm. Now, would you say this is a broad system?
How big is it?
Right now, no. So if you look at, and I guess no. If you could keep the other one on the image, so persons who are listening might not be able to,
Yeah.
but I'll try to describe so that you can visualize. So if you're looking at the update from the National Hurricane Center that has the tracking map, the little orange area that is right where the storm is at the update. So where 5 p.m. on
Mhm.
Friday is, there's a
Friday,
little X.
today. Mhm.
Yep. There's a little orange that is scaled up. That is the size of the wind fields associated with the storm. So
Okay.
it's not a large system right now, but going through rapid intensification, at least that's what they're projecting, could then expand the wind fields even larger. But for now, it is not a large system in terms of wind fields. In terms of rainfall, that is a different factor because it's starting to get like feeder bands that is pulling all the way from north of Colombia. And you see
Yeah.
some of the stuff even close to Haiti. So
Mhm.
it is starting to build at this point in time. So the wind fields are not that great. And I see the other comment, and thanks for that clarification. For us, we're expecting wind direction of east northeast because we have the system moving. The winds around a storm moves counterclockwise, so we'll be having east northeast winds across the Cayman Islands. We could see
Mhm.
wind speeds getting up to about 15 to 20 knots, 20 to 25 at times with higher gusts,
Mhm.
and that would be about 23 to 29 miles per hour if you prefer miles per hour. So that is what we're estimating about
Mhm.
Tuesday or Wednesday. We could see wind speeds up to 23 to 29 miles per hour. With that to note as well is that we could get rough seas. So we have a small craft advisory in effect at this
Yeah.
point in time. So as the wind speed pick up, you'll start see a deterioration in marine conditions as well. And then we could get, higher wave heights that will require additional advisories and alerts. So again, stay up to date to the official channel and the official information that is coming up, because we will be issuing those advisories and alerts based on what information we have at the time. So to that point, in terms of when Grand Cayman could start, at this point, based on the closest point of approach with this track that you have here, this would be Tuesday into Wednesday is when the system would be closest. So as we approach Tuesday is when we could potentially start seeing those gusty conditions and potential squally conditions across the Cayman Islands. So from Tuesday going into Wednesday, based on the most recent track.
Are you able to predict an estimated storm surge after the fact? That's a question.
So they do try to do post assessment. So in the case that you do have storm surge monitoring sensors available, then you can record that. And then you could say, yes, we did have storm surge. We do have 2 sensors here in the Cayman Islands. Now, we know that we've had the launch of the storm surge viewer by the National Hurricane Center that helps to give forecasted storm surge. The thing about that is that in order to verify that that model works, you have to experience storm surge. So you have to then experience the storm surge, then report it back for them to confirm with the models. Did it work? Did it not work? Do I need to recalculate? How do I adjust? Did we over forecast or under forecast? So in order to improve the storm surge model, we would need to experience storm surge, which is something we don't want to do, because it would mean we're being impacted by a tropical storm, which again, that is the reality of that situation there.
Definitely.
Oh, wow. I hope that people are really understanding. And thank you for being so clear, breaking it down in layman's terms, because that will make any other public PR stuff that you do, hoping, that people, because of how this podcast is, people do go back. They join us at various times during this 2-hour show. And it's amazing how we have been able to break it down so that even when you're doing future reporting over the weekend, I'm hoping that people will understand exactly what you're talking about. And I thank you all, 1, for your candor, and 2, for being able to speak in layman's terms. And I think that has been missing for a while, because people are dealing with probably getting home from work, dealing with the kids, the anxiety of, oh my God, I only heard possible category 5, and not putting it into context. But you guys have been able to deliver in such a way that I think everyone should be able to understand what is in for us. And the greatest takeaway from all of this discussion is that we should not take anything for granted, and we should always remain alert and prepared. And because of the very slow nature of this particular system, there really shouldn't be any excuses.
Agreed. And definitely thank you for providing us the opportunity to expound on what is happening. Again, it is difficult to get that level of granular detail when you're putting out a forecast, because you want to get to the points so persons could see the important bit of information. But having the ability to explain, to talk to the listeners and the viewers definitely helps to give a sense of what we're seeing.
Correct.
And what what message we're trying to convey to the public.
Correct. Because there's no sense of disseminating information and people just not getting it. And that is why I appreciate how we were able to deliver and how we were able to bring it down. I feel, in my humble opinion, you've set the foundation now for any future reporting to go out. It should be easier digested, in my humble opinion.
I hope so. I hope so.
Certainly agree.
Now, is there an AM radio station to tune in if there is a loss of digital satellites? What happens if that? Yeah. Go ahead.
I know Radio Cayman does exist. And then for updates, we do put our forecast on 107.9 as well. So we will put those updates. So if there's an alert, watch, or warning, whatever the case may be, that is also on our and that is designated for weather only, so that it will only have weather information on that channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, should the need be arise, I know there's redundancies that we try to have as much redundancies as possible where communication is concerned,
Yeah.
because that would be key. So the Department of Communication has several redundancies in the event of certain outages.
Right.
Correct.
Let's quickly go through some myths busting, because this will definitely put things
Sure.
into context as well. Some of the myths. Is it true that Category 1 storms aren't dangerous?
That's a myth. If I could talk about it as well.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to say it's not dangerous, it all depends on your vulnerability.
Correct.
It really depends on your vulnerability. How vulnerable are you to that thing? And it's not in that. So if you are in a home that is not rigid and built
Standard.
to standard, then you are more vulnerable. So then it is dangerous for you. But if you are in a home that is built to standard for that, then you are less vulnerable. So then it's less dangerous for you. So again, it is really a situational type thing. And it really depends on a person's vulnerability.
And also, when you think of flooding, it doesn't have to be a Category 1 storm if you're living in a flood-prone area.
That is correct. I mean, we could get torrential rainfall from systems that are not tropical storms.
In nature,
and we could
right.
get way more rainfall with those systems than a tropical storm. So that's the reality. So to say, okay, it's not that bad because it's just a tropical storm is not, not factual.
Okay. Let's share another myth. That is there's a myth. Do all shelters allow pets?
No, not all shelters. We have two primary shelters that allow for pets. So we have the Clifton Hunter as well as John Gray.
Okay.
High school.
Another myth,
Yeah.
myth busting. Is flooding only a risk for coastal homes?
Yeah, that's
No. There are different types of flooding. So we could start by saying there's different type of flooding.
Yeah.
So there's coastal flooding that is due to, again, storm surge or increased wave action, and then there's flooding due to rainfall. So you have inland flooding due to different scenarios. So again, at the coast, you might say, oh, you're not prone to flooding, but it's just you might experience a different type of flooding. If you're on the coastal area and you have a slight sink or a dip, then you potentially create a basin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then flooding becomes a reality. So that is a myth that
Huge
flooding
myth.
is not possible at the coast.
Okay. And last myth. Can I wait until the last minute to evacuate? Myth. And the
That's
emergency
interesting one.
services, because they got the high-powered trucks. You got the regiment out there with all these high-powered
Would encourage
vehicles.
you not to.
So I'll wait for last minute to just move, and I can call 911 and
encourage you
they'll
not
come
to.
out.
Would encourage persons not to. Definitely would encourage you not to wait until the last minute, because again, it also poses a danger to our first responders. We don't want to put our
Exactly.
first responders in harm's way. So we'd encourage persons, if we need to evacuate just for your own safety, we would encourage you to do so, please.
Not
Yeah.
to do
If I can add, if I can piggyback on that, the thing about these type of scenario, especially with a tropical storm, the forward motion could change.
Yeah.
So if you're waiting on the last minute and you're thinking, hey, I could travel
I got time.
Monday on a flight because we don't expect stuff to happen until Monday night. What if that system speeds up? Then you expect the potential impacts earlier. You could see it on that Monday morning, and then it changes everything. So then you risk obviously not being able to evacuate. So you don't want to do that for the reason that Mark mentioned, which is putting your first responder at risk,
Yeah.
but also because of the unpredictability to
Right.
that granular detail as to, hey, can I travel now versus later on this afternoon since the storm is coming tomorrow morning?
I see somebody was asking nearest shelters to West Bay Road, please.
Yes.
Codling, yeah, go ahead.
So we can. So there are two ways. If you want to go to the western side or the western district, in West Bay, we have John A. Cumber Primary, and there's a very large shelter up in the West Bay region. So that could be proposed as one of the nearest shelter. Or if you want to come closer into the central to Georgetown, we do have John Gray High School. And of course, that's one of our largest shelters as well. That has a large capacity. And of course, that's one of our pet shelters too. So, I
John
mean,
Gray.
it all depends on where relative you are on West Bay Road. Of course, there's no shelter on within that middle on West Bay Road, but to the extremes within Georgetown or West Bay would be recommended. And just to get those information, just visit our website,
And
caymanprepared.ky
I'll
or
share them again.
caymanprepared.gov.ky. Yeah,
Correct.
get all the relevant information. And of course, our communications team will be sharing posts with all that
Excellent
relevant
question.
information.
Connie
Yeah,
Bonnie,
yeah.
how safe are those shelters?
So we, as I can say, it goes through a very rigorous process to basically establish these locations or these buildings as shelters. So we work closely with our public works department. We do our annual inspection. They have to meet the standards of hurricane rated, and of course with our building codes that are very strong. And of course, what we do recently, especially in Bodtown, the Francis Garvey
Yeah.
shelter in Bodtown, that was recently one of our expansions. Of course, to be built to standard. We ensure that, of course, one of the things we're looking at, we provide supplies. We encourage persons to do bring their food and supplies, but in the case we also have our backup to provide water, food, all that type of stuff. And of course, within our shelters, we have different teams. And of course, with some shelters, we have what we refer to as EMCs, emergency medical centers, and of course thinking about our vulnerable groups as well. So we try to ensure that we cater a lot to the needs of the community and try to ensure, of course, with our more vulnerable groups.
But at this time, because we're still not in those stages, we will share information. Should shelters be activated,
be
because they
shelters.
have to be properly manned as it is right now, Miss
Correct.
Marjorie. No shelters
Exactly.
have been activated at this time. We don't know. This
Yes.
could possibly change within the next 24 to 48 hours based on the speed of this, based on the amount of rain and that sort of stuff. And we do know that there are certain areas in the Cayman Islands that is more prone to flooding quicker than others.
Flooding.
So I'm quite
Correct.
sure these gentlemen and those in charge of advising will know exactly when to activate. And that's why it's important for persons when the call is made who want to volunteer as shelter managers. And that is why it's
Yes.
key, because not all shelters will be equipped with the same amount of personnel, as quietly alluded to. There's some that's going to be needing medical personnel as well. But some of the key things as well, when you go to these shelters, unless it's an emergency where, God forbid, you were sheltering in your home, you didn't expect your roof to be compromised. But if you're planning to go to a shelter, it's wise for you to pack some food. Make sure you take your medications and that sort of stuff. And if you're going to take your kids, make sure to take something for them to occupy them, because not all the time Wi-Fi is available for smart devices. But food is something that I think we need to constantly reinforce into people, that you make sure you pack water, you pack food, and your medications is key, because it's not like it's going to be a buffet line or anything like that. You want to make sure that anybody who are going to these shelters, even though they're provided by the government, there will be minimal supplies there should those shelters be overwhelmed. So you want to make sure that you're still responsible, that if you got to go to these shelters before time, once they're activated, because they're not as yet, that you also are self-sufficient to sustain yourself for at least 2 days, maybe. It all depends. Am I right?
Yeah, you're totally right there. You're totally right there. We do encourage, although we have supplies in the event.
Yeah. So, but it all helps when everybody can, what old people say, every tub on their own bottom, even for a little while. Yeah, it helps because
For a
it makes the
little while,
food
yes, I'm sorry.
stretch. Palmer says, not all homes are supposedly built to standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent
Yeah. I
comment.
mean,
That's true.
yeah, we
Yeah,
definitely
but
probably see.
again, to the point, vulnerability.
Yeah.
So if you know yours is not necessarily one of those, then you know you're more vulnerable than one that is built. So again, the self-assessment of your own situation definitely helps in knowing your risk and will help you to make that decision. Do you want to stay in a house that you know is not fit for purpose, or do
Yeah.
you want to find a shelter? Again, it's understanding your own risk.
Oh, Michelle, I didn't meant to say, if you don't have a choice when it comes to taking your kids, should you have kids, please make sure that you take stuff to entertain them. You don't have a choice if you're going to a shelter to take your kids. You don't want to leave them home. That's funny, but I caught the joke in it. Thank you for highlighting that for me. That I did say the word kids. You can tell I don't have young kids. Yeah, they're all men and women. So yeah, it is what it is. I just worry about 2 little dogs. Yeah, 2 little dogs. They're my babies. Gentlemen, recap, key takeaways, contact information, reminders. I see where I'm going to be posting a YouTube link because there is a message from Her Excellency the Governor Jane Owen and the Premier of Andre Ebanks talking about this tropical system. At the end of this, I will post that YouTube link at the bottom of this page. But gentlemen, this has honestly been an honor for me to host you here. I hope that you were comfortable, that you actually enjoyed what you were able to how the level of our engagement. And I'm hoping that all of those persons who tune in and will be tuning in would appreciate from what angle we were able to have this discussion, and that there would be key takeaways. But I'll give you an opportunity right now to recap, leave with us key takeaways and any other information you want for us to stick, and hoping this will not be your last time here.
All right. Again, so let me just start by saying thanks again for having us. Thanks to the listeners and viewers who tuned in. Hopefully, we provided a little bit more clarity on what is happening in the situation. You have a better situational awareness of what is happening, and hopefully, you can take the information that we've provided to then assess your own situation and make those decisions. Again, I need to emphasize, ensure that you're getting information from the official sources. In this case, you can follow us on WhatsApp. You could follow us on Facebook, and then you could visit weather.gov.ky. All our updates are there. And if you have any questions about the daily forecast and how the conditions are expected to vary across days, you could look at that as well on our website. And I'll let Mark speak to the other channels. And again, let me just mention as well, you could also, you have the government WhatsApp channel as well is available for information.
Yeah.
You see how techie we are? You see that?
I
We
realize
bad like that. We bad like that.
Yeah. And again, that's the beauty of technology. But again, I just first like to thank you, Sabrina, and also your team. And of course, a massive kudos to our Department of Communication, in particular, leading our colleague, Miss Dunstan, as well. She's been very supportive with this initiative, facilitated the team to be on here and participating in this podcast. So we're more than appreciative to your viewers. I would like to just leave one very important thing. Nobody plans to fail. We simply fail to plan. So ensure that you have your plans in place and be ready in the event of any impact. And of course, we're trying to build towards a stronger and a better Cayman Islands. Indeed.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much again. It has been a pleasure hosting you here. And I know the family of Sabrina Speaks, we appreciate you. And like I said, we will be sharing all of the information in real time. I have a very active Facebook page. Codling, you know exactly what I'm capable of. Just that it's now on my Facebook page, and I'm getting it out there. But I really liked you all accepting the style in which we delivered today. And I'm hoping that, this could be a continuation maybe for the future. And, but more so now with what is happening here, if we're going to go an informational to keep educating, we say we want to educate the public so that when things like this happen, dissemination of information is easier, because you would have created that foundation of educating our public I think this
Agreed.
would be an
Yeah.
excellent relationship. It shouldn't actually have to be hurricane season, but you build it. So when the reality comes, it makes the conversation so much
Easy.
easier. But I thank
Agreed.
you all for your candor. I thank you so much. We're here. And just reach out to me. Please be safe. I want to personally thank you for your service. I know how that is, what it's going to be like for the next couple of hours or days. That you actually leave your families and you go out to give a service. And for someone coming from the uniformed services, I totally respect that. And I want to thank you personally. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. Really appreciate
Sure.
it.
Take care. See you soon. All the best.
All right. Have a good one. Thank
All
you.
right. Take care. Thank you. Have a
Sure.
good one.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a pleasure hosting them here, and I hope that you've gotten some great takeaways from the dialogue and the discussion that we had. Just before, I got some information that, at the beginning of the show, I posted this of missing persons. Well, I got some latest information. I'm going to just post the flyer back up, though, so that you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, and to read the latest information now that the search has been officially called off. And so let me just read. I just got that breaking here. Let me get it for you in real time. That the search, the Coast Guard, the Cayman Islands Coast Guard has suspended active search and rescue operations for 2 local fishermen who vanished during a fishing expedition earlier this week. And we realized that was as of the 20th of October. And that was announced earlier on this evening. So even though there's a tip line, even though the search has been called off, we know that Corey Brown and Almasar Rosales Smith were last seen on the evening of October 20th, departing from Brack Reef Resort in a blue 24 to 28 foot fishing boat equipped with a single 100 horsepower engine. And they were headed to Swordfish Bank, a popular fishing area, and failed to return as expected. Now, because of over the last 3 days, search teams from multiple agencies conducted a comprehensive operation covering 495 square nautical miles within a 92 nautical mile perimeter around the sister islands. And the effort included aerial reconnaissance by the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, surface patrol by the Coast Guard patrol vessel Guardian, and additional air support from the Jamaica Defense Air Force Air Wing, drift possibility analysis coordinated with the U.S. Coast Guard Miami Rescue Coordination Center, and ground support from the Department of Environment officers stationed in the BRAC. Now, the search was temporarily suspended on the 22nd due to the deteriorating weather conditions around the sister islands, forcing teams to suspend the operation. The Coast Guard announced that as of 3 p.m. today, the operation has transitioned to inactive status after more than 96 hours had lapsed since the men were last seen. So there we have it. But anyone with information is urged to contact the CIG Operations and Rescue Command. That's 345-649-6722, or the Royal Cayman Islands Police Cayman Brac Station at 345-649-0331. So our thoughts and prayers go out to this family. We know exactly what they must be going through right now. And we can only hope the best. But yeah, you're welcome, Miss Marjorie. It has been good. And I hope that we were able to answer your questions in real time. But, just before we wrap up, and I will be sharing that link with you. Before we wrap up today's episode, remember, preparedness is just not about plans. It's about having the right tools. Head over to International Lighting. That's at Ed's Plaza, 194. That's 94 North Sound Road for your hurricane essentials, including 2 and 3 burner propane stoves and more. And don't forget, you spend $50 or more, you can win a round trip ticket to any Cayman Airways destination. So stay ready, stay safe, and maybe even fly away when the skies get clear. You know, today we have heard from the voices behind our national response and forecasting systems. And I hope that we've learned that preparedness isn't panic. It's really power. It's knowing your alert, your shelters, your plan, and definitely your community. So, Cayman, you know, we've pulled back this curtain on what it truly means to be ready, not just personally, but nationally. And we've heard again for those two gentlemen, thank you so much. They are the voices behind our forecasts and our emergency protocols. And we've learned that the readiness is just not stocking them up. It's about really understanding the systems and trusting alerts and knowing our role in the bigger picture. Now, as you can hear, Mark reminded us that preparedness is a community effort, from shelter coordination to district response. And Shamal showed us how science and vigilance guide the warnings we receive. And together, along with you, they've helped us see that when the storm comes, we're not alone. We're really supported by a network built on strategy, compassion, and definitely experience. So whether you're in Spots, Caymanian, a little Cayman, whether you're a renter or even a homeowner, we discussed that yesterday, or a business owner, know this: your readiness matters, and your decision today shapes your safety tomorrow. It has been a pleasure bringing you this Friday edition of Sabrina Speaks. And again, I'm wishing everyone a safe weekend. Let me grab this link for you so that after this, you can definitely log on and see exactly what the governor and the premier of the Cayman Islands has to say in this video. But until Monday, God spares life, have a safe weekend. And you can always find the latest updates on Sabrina Turner, community activist Facebook page, and YouTube as well, and all the CMR platforms. You know, we're going to keep it live to you and keep the information coming as we navigate this weather system together. Stay safe, keep dry, be prepared. Until next time, it has been a pleasure. This has been Sabrina Speaks.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.